folkies, Emelie Waldken here. I know it's been a little while and I'm explaining why in the end of the video, but I wanted to talk about something I've been thinking about for a while, which is basically Swedish language. Because as a musician who is playing Swedish folk music, you might very well come across a few words, sentences and expressions that are very typically Swedish. And I think knowing just a little bit of the language, even if you don't think about learning it completely, can help you a lot. So in this video I'm gonna try to give you some basics of the Swedish language that might be very useful for you. Also because there are some cultural things in the folk music scene here in Sweden that you might not understand fully if you don't have the vocabulary or the expressions. I am gonna add a little bit of Norwegians sometimes because I've noticed some words that for me were necessary to have in Norwegian as well to understand when we're talking about some things. Most of the time you can use Swedish to understand Norwegian and reciprocally. I am not gonna talk about Danish because I know nothing about this language, and I'm also not gonna talk about Finnish because it's a totally different family of languages and I don't speak it at all. About Norwegian, I'm very sorry for my pronunciation. It's very probably gonna be very Swedishized somehow. So Norwegians, I'm sorry. Also Swedes, this video might not be of very much interest to you, but you can still listen in case I'm making some mistakes and you can correct them in the comments, for example. I'm not an expert of Swedish language at all. I've just learned the language and I love it, and I've also learned it from the perspective of a musician who was not Swedish speaking and just loved the music first, so I think I kind of know which words are important to have. So I'm gonna basically go through 4 chapters. Chapter 1, the letters and the pronunciations that are important for basically speaking Swedish or pronouncing Swedish. Chapter 2, a few very important words that you should definitely learn, even if you don't plan to learn Swedish at all. Chapter 3, a list of words that are just useful. That's a bit like a dictionary, but also with pronunciation. And chapter 4, a few sentences that might help you understand a bit of the grammar, or that you might hear quite often in the Swedish folk music world. Chapter 1. How to pronounce Swedish. The Swedish grammar is quite easy, but the pronunciation of that language is not really easy at all. So it's a bit the downside of the language, and I personally have had lots of troubles in the start. I was going to the woods and trying to pronounce the vowels again and again, and the consonants and the weird sounds, and all the people who have met me when I was in the woods doing that are probably thinking I'm absolutely crazy, but I think the best way to be able to say a new sound is just to try again and practice. So I'm gonna give you a few sounds and tips about how to pronounce Swedish, but the job is mostly in your hands. In the Scandinavian languages, there are 3 extra vowels as opposed to the international Anglo-Saxon alphabet. The first one is Å. It looks like an A with a bubble, but don't pronounce it A or A, pronounce it Å. Just pronounce the bubble. Sometimes it's also written with 2 A's one after the other. It's just pronounced the same. Å, exactly like the English O. Then you have the vowel Ö. In Swedish, it's an O with 2 dots, and in Norwegian and Danish, it's an O with a stroke. Röd. Then you have Ä, which is in Swedish an A with 2 dots, and in Norwegian and Danish an A and an E glued together. Läsa, lätt. Then you have a few vowels that are found in the Anglo-Saxon alphabet, but that are pronounced maybe a bit differently in Swedish. Y, by, sy. O, skog, fot. Ö, Uppsala, dö. Let's get into consonants now.
The R in Swedish varies in its pronunciation depending on where you're from. So as a stranger, you can choose between 3 different pronunciations. The 2 northern thirds of Sweden are rolling the R. R. Norrbotten. The southern third of Sweden says R. A little bit like the French R. Nybro. And then if you can't say any of those 2, you can decide that you're from Kalmar, where you barely pronounce the R at all, a little bit in a German way. Kalmar. You kind of let it suspended. The S in Swedish is always hard. S. Never Z. Rosa. J. Jas. Jätte. G depends a bit what comes after this letter. Sometimes it's G, granne. Sometimes it's J, Göteborg. Same thing with the K. Sometimes it's K, koka. Sometimes it's Tja, kärra. There are many associations of consonants in Swedish, and many are quite confusing. The easiest is LJ. Basically, you ignore the L. You don't say lje, you say ja. Ljus. Now, all these are pretty much the same. In the southern part of Sweden, southern half, kind of, you would say ch. In the northern half of Sweden, you would say sh. Ch, sh, stjärna, stjärna, norrsken, norrsken, skjorta, skjorta. Swedish is a tonal language, which means that where you put the stress, the accent, and the tone of your voice in the words can change the meaning of a word. My favorite example of this is banan, which means a circuit, but banan, which means a banana. So be careful about where you put the tones in your Swedish words, because it can change the meaning of a word or just sound extremely weird to Swedish speakers. In general, you have 2 tones in Swedish words that are 2 syllables or more. The first tone is on the first or second syllable, and it's a very deep one. And then you have another tone that is a little bit less deep, a bit further in the word. Dalarna. Tobo. Spela. So tones in Swedish are not easy. It's a long and arduous job, especially if you come from a language that doesn't have tones. I am personally working a lot on this, and very often I'm saying weird stuff and sounding weird, but well, as usual, it's a question of practice.
Chapter 2. A few very, very important little words that you need when you are playing Swedish folk music.
Efter in Swedish, or etter in Norwegian and I think Danish too, means after. For example, a tune that has been transmitted to you by your teacher. Av in Swedish, and I think it's af in Danish and perhaps in some Norwegian dialects as well, means composed by. So, Vals efter Niklas Rosvall is a vals that Niklas Rosvall has transmitted, but not composed. It might be someone else who wrote it, or it's a traditional tune. Whereas Vals av Niklas Rosvall means that Niklas has composed the tune. And be very careful with this word of, because it means credits, perhaps even copyright and some legal stuff. So when you see this word, be careful about when, where you play the tune and how you transmit it. Från in Swedish, frå or fra in Norwegian, and I think as well in Danish, means from, so a tune from a place. And I means, for example, in a region. Schottis från Lima I Dalarna. Ur is meaning out of. It's usually used just when there is a collection or a notebook and a tune is taken out of it. For example, Polonaise ur sexdrega Samlingen. It's a Polonaise from the collection called Sexdrega. Or Polska ur Magnus Theorins notebook. Magnus Theorin had a notebook, he wrote down a polska, and we take this polska out of the notebook.
Chapter 3. A list of useful words in Swedish folk music world. You can find them in a dictionary, but here I'm also giving you pronunciation, so maybe it's a bit more useful.
Fiol. Fiol. Altfiol. Altfiol. Cello. Cello. Bas. Bas. Nyckelharpa. Nyckelharpa. Harpa. Harpa. Gitarr. Gitarr. Flöjt. Flöjt. Pipa. Pipa. Blockflöjt. Blockflöjt. Säckpipa. Säckpipa. Durspel. Durspel. Dragspel. Dragspel. Mungiga. Mungiga. Munharpa. Munharpa. Trumma. Trummor. Sång. Sång. There are several ways of saying a musician. If you mean especially a folk musician, you can say spelman. For a woman, spelkvinna. A singer is sångare. If it's a woman, sångerska. If you want to use more neutral words, you can just say musiker. And this means also other types of music. Låt, slott, melodi, komp, baslinje, arrangemang. One of the most important words you meet in the Swedish folk music world is stämma, and it means several different things. As a verb, att stämma, it means to tune, for example, to tune a fiddle. It also means, as a noun, a voice in an arrangement. Första stämman, the first voice, is basically the melody. Usually in Swedish we use melody. Andra stämma is the second voice, and then you can have third voice, fourth voice, and everything. But usually in the Swedish folk music context, when you hear just "are you playing stämma?", it means "are you playing the second voice?" And then there is spelmanslaget, which is usually shortened into Stamma as well. And this means a gathering of folk musicians. Then there is a little difference between stämma and festival. A stämma, spelmanslaget, is more about music, sharing music, and not as organized as a festival. A festival usually has a quite clear program with bands that are appointed and play. A stämma can vary between just people gathering in a farm and having fun jamming together one evening, to something quite big with actually also artists that are written down on a program. So it's not a super sharp difference, but there is a difference in the cultural sense. Like, people understand stämma and festival in a different way. Also, festival usually has a bit more space for dancing. Stämma, maybe there is space for dancing, but it's more about music. And then you have danskväll, which is just basically a dance evening, so a few musicians that are playing for dance. Band, grupp, easy peasy, that's a band or a group. Spelmanslaget is something that is quite important to know as well in Scandinavia. It is basically an assembly of folk musicians, usually non-professionals, but who play sometimes professional gigs. Basically a folk orchestra, if you want. And you have quite similar thing with dancing, which is folkdanslag or folkdansring. So dancers gathering, practicing their dancing together, and going to dance for festivals or to show off the beautiful choreographies.
And chapter 4, a few useful and basic sentences in Swedish that you might hear very often in the folk music world.
Jag har låten efter Mia Marin. Han sjunger så fint. Hon spelar bas i hennes band, men gitarr i spelmanslaget. Vi dansar på stora scenen 5:00.
Okay, folkies, this is all for this video about Swedish language. I hope it was interesting and you learned something. No worries, I'm not gonna become a channel about languages or about traveling to Sweden, maybe a little bit, but not only like focused on that. I am gonna talk about music again in the next videos. This was like kind of a parenthesis or something. I'm trying to give you little hints of like cultural stuff every time I talk about the topic, but I thought that the language deserved a video of its own. If you enjoyed this video, please like it. If you have ideas or comments, critics, if you have suggestions for new videos, please let me know in the comments down below. Invite your nerdy friends to subscribe to the channel, and you can also support me on Patreon, which is the best way to see those videos going on if you enjoy them. Now, as promised in the end of the video, just a short explanation of why I haven't been posting many videos lately. It is simply because I have a lot happening in my life at the moment. So I've moved to Sweden and now I am adapting to the new place. I have a job which is not related to music, so it's very new for me and it means that I have less time for music. And I am meeting new people and I'm trying to be very social and to meet more friends, because I know by experience that Scandinavian winters are much less hard when you are surrounded by very nice people. And I am practicing my Swedish like crazy, hence the video, and many things, paper stuff, organizing, sorting out my stuff, buying new winter clothes, all this kind of stuff. So it's really a lot that I have to do and I just don't have the time for videos at the moment. I have ideas, but I don't even have the time to work on them. I have lots of compositions of mine that are just waiting for me to take care of them. I don't even have much time to practice my instruments. It's just I'm running after things to do on my to-do lists, basically. And the to-do lists are just getting longer and longer. So yeah, I'm in a big rush of time, so the videos are like getting a bit more spaced. I am absolutely not stopping the videos. I would let you know if this would happen someday. For now it's really not the idea. I am going on with them, just a little less frequently, and I can't really say for how long. It will depend on what happens in my life. So yeah, please be patient with me, please be understanding. I'm posting a bit less often, but I hope this is gonna get better and I will get more time and a bit more relaxed and organized to be able to work on that again. I like to teach, I like to make those videos, and I love to play music. I want to record more of my tunes, of my arrangements as well, just not having the time. That also explains why if you write to me, you will probably not get an answer right away. Usually I am really pleased to get like your nerdy questions and messages, but at the time I just don't have the time to answer them. It has happened that someone wrote to me for having tips for a trip to Sweden, and I answered too late. The person was already in Sweden when I answered, so I couldn't help actually. So just don't be mad at me, I just have too much to do and too little time to do it. What you can do is to ask your nerdy questions about Scandinavian music or nyckelharpa or Swedish or whatever in dedicated groups, for example on Facebook. I am listing a few Facebook groups that I know of that are good, where you can ask stuff also in English about Swedish and Danish folk music and nyckelharpa. So don't hesitate to join those groups. There are really nice people who know a lot, and if you need information quickly, as I can't provide it for now, you can ask there and you will probably get very, very good answers. So I hope you are not angry with me. So that's about me. Thank you for your understanding and your patience. I am not letting you down. Definitely not. I am just very stressed out. Take care. Prepare the autumn and the winter. Enjoy the beautiful colors and air. Here it's absolutely gorgeous. And I will see you in the next video, folkies. Bye! Look at this, seriously. It's so thick.